The famous quote by sci-fi author Arthur C. Clarke tells us, two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe, or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. It's a profound sentiment that highlights the balance between the frightening concept of human loneliness in the endless cosmos and the fear of the unknown. We don't know what's out there. We don't know if it might come in peace, but most importantly, we have no knowledge that anything exists out there at all, and that squeezes us in a sandwich of terror we can't escape. Shrink that premise that we're either alone or we're not down to one person, and the notion still holds weight. In fact, things get even more terrifying. If you're anything like me, you're no stranger to small hours activity, up in the dark, alone with your thoughts, the very road beyond your window, the hometown you're so familiar with obscured by the blackness of night. Maybe you'll be up working, eking in some cheeky early morning gaming, perhaps partaking in some non-Keir Starmer approved activity, or just wide awake because clinging to a sleep schedule would just make far too much sense. In those moments, do you feel it too? That irrational juxtaposition between an understanding that nobody is there, yet unable to shake the sensation that maybe, just maybe, you are being watched. I know it's very rare for me to cover indie games on this channel, and it's far less common for me to be utterly enthralled in horror as a genre, as constipation is quite the opposite to the issue I struggle with, but this pre-alpha game you can download for free from a solo developer utterly gripped me, in ways few games do. Voices of the Void is an absolute ambient masterpiece that emphasizes the loneliness of my shattered sleep schedule, the paranoia of observing the sleeping world while wide awake, and mixes it brilliantly with the extremes of Arthur C. Clarke's haunting words. And that to me makes it a very special game. Now, I've got to throw this out there. A friend of mine suggested I give this game a go, so I thought, what's the harm in it? I fired it up, hoping to maybe sink in a couple hours to be polite, but god damn it, the game gripped me by the balls. It's been a week. So if you want to blame anyone for my channel's inactivity for the past week or so, it's this mullet-cursed weapon. So what is Voices of the Void? Well, it's a horror game, but it's not the kind to throw jump scares at you every 5 minutes, or to lacquer you in grotesque visuals to embed a sense of dread that becomes comical after a few hours. Its mission is to keep you stressed, keep you paranoid, keep you just cozy enough that you're engaged, yet ultimately to catch you off guard reliably every time something happens without fail. How does it do this? Well, first, we have the slow burn. When you fire up a horror game for the first time, you have quite an apt emulation of paranoia. That, of course, is the anticipation of these defining events. I'd colour it a sense of dread, but it's much more subtle than that to begin with. But the point is, you have expectation, you know that something will happen eventually, it's just a matter of time. Voices of the Void's opening highlights the flaw in that expectation, so it dedicates its first few hours of playing to making us aware that our assumptions about what might happen won't insulate us from what does. So, our first few days at the base are characterised by a distinct lack of events, if anything. We're granted the time to familiarise ourselves with the gameplay loop, probably under the understanding that most people did not play the tutorial, and if they did, like me, they likely did not pay attention. So, our first few days are characterised by getting familiar with the routine of the game. We play as Dr. Kell, a scientist presumably at his wit's end with the startling ability of being able to look at his own face. We're beginning a new job up at a remote research station in the Swiss mountains, and after a brief midnight stroll through the woods, we arrive at our base. After pinging in the bulletproof passcode into the keypad, 1111, we're met with an interior that's positively filthy and full of far too many mannequins for the previous occupant to have been sane. This dump hardly strikes me as a state-of-the-art research facility. The windows have a century's worth of grime on them. The rubbish has amassed into emulsified clumps on the floor all over the place. There's an inaccessible room full of dead cows in the basement, barricaded by a modest metal chair. The fridge is chiefly full of decomposing, no longer recognisable biological material. Somebody's left a mannequin in the shower and a perfectly good burger on the toilet, and whoever's running this shithole thinks it's acceptable to hire somebody who thinks eating soap is a good idea. From inside this state-of-the-art research base with the interior design of a council house in Bolton, our job is quite straightforward. We scan space for signals. We download those signals. We listen to those signals. And we venture out into the sticks to maintain the satellites and transformers on our trusty ATV. Which I say knowing the thing's handling is utterly unhinged. Soon we get used to the routine of never-ending purgatory-like maintenance, downloading and processing signals, cleaning them up, and sending them off in exchange for payment. In these first few days, aside from some spooky audio from the signals... I see. It's almost easy to forget this game is even meant to unnerve you. But it still manages to, even in these first few hours, albeit in a very comforting way. It's not like strange events don't occur as we settle into our new environment. We have a radar pinging away in the signal room telling us if anything is nearby. And sometimes things are, but what they are, we don't know. It's quite common for sleep to be interrupted, to be unable to return to sleep because we can sense something. What? We don't know. But in these events, the game won't pause either. We can't leave. Sometimes our only choice is to investigate what might be out there. Or we can get busy, distract ourselves with the job simulator routine, and hope it goes away on its own. What these events might be early on can vary, from a simple meteor shower that the game simply wants us to observe, to the power going out in the building. Are you taking the pic? To get it back, maybe we'll need to reset the fuse box in the basement. Or perhaps we'll have to nip out and repair one of the 3 transformers. It's especially chilling when these abrupt power cuts hit you in the middle of the night while you're scanning deep space for signals. Then you have to weigh up whether or not it's worth risking the dark forest, or simply going to sleep and dealing with it in the morning. As for the signals themselves, they too can be quite eerie. Most of the time it's the dead noise of a distant star or a planet, but sometimes you can't help but feel as if there's more to the recording. While sleeping, you can also find yourself in a creepy dream sequence. Strange, oddly familiar black and white spaces, where you must quickly figure out what's going on, get your bearings, and hope to do just enough to not get booted out, awakening more tired than when you went to bed. Then the game's sound design is also purpose-built to spook you. Doors make an almost crashing noise as they open and close. The noises your scanner makes are also eerie in their own way. The server room is full of noises that slice through the silence unnervingly. And sometimes I don't know if I'm imagining it, but I feel as if there's a disquieting tapping noise coming from the vents above. On the first few in-game days, I couldn't shake the sense that something was in the vents, rattling around, insulated from me by only a thin piece of metal. And yet the most you'll be actually shaken up as you get used to the game is accidentally running into a closed door. Instead of dropping us into instant madness, first the game embeds us in a sense of isolation. We're alone in these woods. It's just us out here, and while that's oddly serene in the day as we go about our routine, at night it's eerie as we can only see so far in front of us. The fear of the unknown manifests in not knowing what's beyond the range of the flashlight. First, all of this is to be observed safely, to feed us the atmosphere and land in the right headspace. The filthy base gives us a sense that something horrible happened here. Not to mention cleaning it up and making it as homely as possible gives you something to do. Not that I actually bothered. Instead, I explored, I adjusted, I gathered, I repaired and refueled my quad bike countless times because the thing handles like it's actively trying to kill you. But after a bit, I developed an appreciation for Voices of the Void's seeming deliberate jank. I don't know if this is because the game intends for it to be there or if it's part of the pre-alpha, but the jankiness, if anything, adds to the abandoned feeling of these woods, the base, the satellites, the transformers. As you fight against your quad bike to safely navigate across the array, you get the feeling that something about this world is wrong. Like the cracks in the game are there to connect you with the events directly. I'll elaborate more on what I mean by that later. As for the now, all I can say is this peace and quiet can't and won't last forever. When scanning for signals, there's a chance we might happen upon more than just a lonely star or world, millions of light years away. And I'm not just talking about the sense you get when listening back to some recordings like there's something there trying to communicate with you. Unidentifiable signals that feel that way certainly happen, but I'm more on about the clear-cut discoveries, obvious deviations from the norm, like the visage of a spaceship in space, as opposed to the sea. I don't know why I had to elaborate in space, but ignore me. I suppose this alludes to an answer to the question, are we alone in the universe, at least within the confines of the game? The game speaks to a rich fascination with space. It's normal to be excited, watching the signal download at painstakingly slow speeds because you can't be bothered fixing the 3 satellites that are down at night, so we sit and anticipate what the signal might actually say. And then surely, once it's downloaded, I guess we'll have to scrub it up. Having our first extraterrestrial being encounter occur through the signals allows the game to use the painstaking process to build anticipation. Now we've got to wait for the signal to process so we can actually hear that which may or may not be obscured by the static. It builds an apprehensive excitement, but also reminds you not to get carried away, to pay attention to your other tasks, maybe go and do other things while you wait for this coveted signal to process, which of course for the best clarity is a process you'll have to repeat 3 times, granting you plenty of buffer to experience something else in the meantime, like another dream, or another intense round of unexplainable paranoia, but eventually it's ready. I don't know if it's just me, but it's like some evil alien entity is laughing at my primitive curiosity. But surely whatever that was has no idea I just picked up its signal, right? Surely it's thousands upon thousands of light years away, nowhere near us. We're safe. Regardless, we have our answer. Something is out there. But with that answer come new questions. What is it? Does it come in peace? Or is it dangerous? The universe doesn't feel so lifeless and empty all of a sudden, and we aren't equipped with the knowledge to gauge whether or not that's a good thing. And we have to sit on these fresh, unanswered questions as we go about continuing our routine. But worry not, the game hasn't forgotten we have these questions. Wait, hang on a minute. Oh. Turns out the aliens might not be that distant after all. There appears to be a spaceship parked in a valley not far from our base. Not looking to get pulverized by a space gun, I got the hell out of there. But one thing is certain, whoever put that there, we're going to be seeing an awful lot more of them. The casual maintenance routine now feels like a series of calculated risks. We are no longer alone in these woods, but we don't know what we're sharing the real estate with. And chillingly, further scans reveal they appear to be taking something of an interest in us. Actuateurs is rosé. What's that an image of?
Is that your base?
The human mind has been unrivaled for so long that it's incredibly difficult to fathom that we might not be the observers here. It's an incredibly strange feeling to suddenly be the observed. This is amplified by Voices of the Void because we're not being observed as a species. We're being observed as an individual. We're the only one here. That sensation we get when we feel we're being watched is most unnerving when it's us specifically that's being watched. Our actions become knowledge, exchanged in an intimate encounter we have no say in. Is this how it feels to be an animal in the wild? The safety of our privacy at the mercy of beings more advanced than we can comprehend? That is a challenging sensation to shake. So to take my mind off of now being stalked by aliens, I created a vaguely giant dog-shaped clump of rubbish and called it Dave. I also bought a flag from the store and imported a threatening image of my mate Beale. At least now the aliens know I mean business. Furthermore, I whacked up some cameras. Wait, that mannequin wasn't there before. Guys, help, the mannequins are moving. Hopefully, if the EBDB creatures show up, I'll be able to catch a glimpse. And at least if they break in, they'll see my impeccable decorations. I even bought a television to watch my favourite show on. As for the mannequins, I don't know why they're walking around now. That's probably more frightening than the idea of aliens. What even is the point in having all these mannequins up here? What's the backup plan for this place to become a Primark? Anyway, the aliens' next move was to hover outside the base and spam my emails with messages appearing to goad me to go outside and look at them. Despite the urge to go and hide under the desk and cry, who am I to reject what I believe to be an attempt at diplomacy? However, upon exiting the base, they kind of immediately left. I got the feeling they were trying to mess with me, so I started messing with them back. I placed a sign outside the base calling them gimpy little alien twats, alongside a picture of Margaret Thatcher to remind them we have scarier things here on Earth. Not long after I'd thought I'd scared the aliens off with the threat of the return of Maggie, when installing a camera on the top of the big tower at the base, I noticed a smokestack on the video feed near Transformer 1, while fighting against the fabric of reality to rename the thing. So I suppose I felt mildly inclined to investigate, because sure enough, next thing I knew I was on my way to figure out where this smoke was coming from. Expecting nothing short of rampant arson, I was pleasantly surprised to discover they appeared to be building a treehouse. They appear to have circular beds that look more comfortable than the beds I have in the base, so not wanting to get absolutely pummeled by aliens I'm yet to see, I decided to leave it alone. More than anything though, I'm kicking myself because the picture of Margaret Thatcher is facing the wrong direction. So that's that, right? Our alien friends don't appear to be quite so scary after all. So I left some shrimp out on the landing pad for my new friends, as I was told by the sod who suggested I play this game that they like shrimp. And then I went about my business convinced that they wouldn't cause me hassle. And that was my mistake. Just because they're pacifists does not make them not assholes. Not only have they evaded my attempts to capture them on CCTV, they also fancy themselves to be pranksters. I say pranksters, it's more like the IRA running a YouTube prank channel circa 2015. They started by rolling paper aliens past the signal room window, which I thought was kinda pleasant. I got some free alien friends out of it. But their pranks only escalated from here. Next they deactivated the power in the basement, forcing me to go downstairs and investigate, only to discover they'd left out these strange blue lights, also reminding me that my locks don't appear to stop them from getting in, which is quite harrowing. But the light they left in the signal room was kinda cozy, to be honest, so I just kinda vibed with it. It illuminates my signal room so nicely, even in a power cut. I'll chalk this one down to a gift. The next encounter was a bit scarier though, as while exploring the construction site nearby to Transformer 3, something decided to have a go at making me crap myself in real time. What's out here? Ooh. Oh, there's something there. If anything's going to make you scared of your own shadow, of course it's going to be invisible things. But this wouldn't be the end of the creature's pranks, as the next time I was upstairs microwaving something that absolutely should not be microwaved, they were busy organising a surprise in my garage. Oh! It actually looks kinda silly looking back, as you can tell it's another one of their paper aliens being launched by some makeshift catapult. But when you've only got the time to catch the outline of it, it genuinely looked like some living anthropomorphic figure was leaping at me. And that had me jump out of my own skin for a split second, before I calmed down and accepted their gift. I was less thrilled about the stake of wood that consequently impaled my quad bike though. But I think it's reasonable to acknowledge what these aliens are preying on. What is it that makes it scary, even if they seem to be quite peaceful, if a bit mischievous? And that of course is the fact that we don't understand them, we don't know what they look like, they appear to be invisible. And they're pranking us by throwing our assumption of what aliens look like at us, as that doesn't answer any questions. It isolates us to our minds, allows our fear to marinate. It also feels like they're inquisitively probing at our mentality. Are we open-minded? Or will we let those fears of what we don't understand define us? So I made my way up to their treehouse with some more shrimp. Call it something of a peace offering. If Margaret Thatcher's not going to keep them at bay, I'll need to take matters into my own hands. That good?
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine.
But was that the end of the pranks? No. If anything, their jests at my expense escalated to more absurd and existentially provocative accomplishments, such as momentarily deactivating gravity or temporarily turning off the sun. At least they apologised for that one, but how? No matter, they're nice guys, they give me food. I'd never heard of a shrimp burger until they pulled up, so we can excuse them the occasional extinction level event. I've got a feeling we're about to have bigger problems though. You see, while our first run-in with aliens was not particularly awful after all, it would appear the mountains of Switzerland are quite the popular holiday destination among the extraterrestrial. You see, I was appreciating my Beale poster one morning when suddenly... F***ing hell. What was that?
You've got visitors.
It would seem something has landed outside the front of the base. I can only describe it as like a miniature pillar. When I approached, it displayed a message, glowing an ominous red as to display a warning. It seems to depict something like a star that if we see out in the woods, we need to run away from. What do I do with these instructions?
Follow them. And follow them closely.
So if I see an orb, run.
Yes. Hide. It is a warning. And I will also warn you, they can get in the base.
Alright. Now, I'm not ordinarily one to take a man rocking a mullet seriously, but this time, it felt like as good a moment as any to give it a whirl. I had to ignore the fact that one of my paper aliens was now jammed headfirst into my signal machine, and pay incredibly close attention to my radar. I also had to prepare myself a hiding spot where I knew I would be safe. So I pushed this box up to the wall on the balcony with the swanky telescope, where I can look at Mars. Now's not the time for shrimp burgers, alien friends, because I needed access to the roof. Why is there a mannequin up here? Begone! But now, in the event that I had dangerous company, I have a spot where they can't reach me. What I didn't expect, however, was that I would need to use it immediately, as there appear to be these creepy wisp-like creatures roaming the wilds. So I made for the roof to hide and also hoped to catch a glimpse of one. I never thought I'd spend any of my time hiding from sentient floating lamps, but here we are, and I'm feeling the integrity of my continents eroding by the second. It didn't take me long to understand that if I left the game and reloaded it around 7 AM, the wisps would despawn until 7 PM, reliably giving me 12 in-game hours where I didn't have to worry about them. Plentiful time to complete my daily tasks without the looming threat of being ripped to shreds. I also went and bought myself a sleeping bag so I could sleep on the roof and only be minorly inconvenienced by a wisp being nearby. And I brought the clock with me so I knew when it would be safe to reload the game and come down. Suddenly the pranks of the treehouse aliens felt like they'd be a welcome distraction. Clearly they thought so too, as it didn't take long for 3 more paper aliens to show up in my garage, standing around the door like a Mexican standoff in Roswell. At least Beale has minions now. Now it's interesting how the events stack. I may now spend my nights dogged by glimmering light sources that may or may not want me dead, but I've also got everything already established going on too. The invisible treehouse aliens, whom I'm led to believe are called Array-rules. Help. I've also got my routine to sustain, scanning space for signals, which gets progressively more interesting as time passes, maintaining my satellites, restoring power to the transformers to avoid them unnecessarily going down, keeping on top of food as to not starve to death, and ensuring I'm adequately sleeping to avoid seeing shadow people, which is a step up from my actual life. Those guys follow me everywhere. There's also the potential for other events to unfold. For instance, when scanning, I found myself met with a satellite image of my base.
Ethan, save.
What do you mean, save?
I know what this one is.
Then I received a second signal that showed my base from outside. That's outside my window.
It's getting foggy.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh, it's a live feed.
Then a third, this time inside the base. Something's in the vent. Why can I still save as if there's nothing there?
There isn't.
Just your imagination, Ethan.
Funny, there's no event telling me I'm in imminent danger, and yet I feel otherwise. Feeling emboldened with my army of paper aliens, I continued scanning, only to find a fourth signal, this time watching me from the locker across the room. Upon seeing this, the brewing event began in earnest, and I received a warning from the game itself telling me not to look inside the locker. Boys, it's been a pleasure knowing you. So I ignored the game and opened it, only for Voices of the Void to immediately crash with a fatal error message that felt oddly appropriate. If you remember earlier, I alluded to how the game's jank contributed to the wrong feeling the experience thrives on. That idea that the horror punches through the holes in the world to hit you directly, rather than via the proxy of Dr. Kell. This is what I mean. There are moments where the game entirely shatters the fourth wall in a way that only feels possible because of that jank. Precious few games weaponize deliberate game crashes as an alternative to a jump scare. For good reason, I suppose, overall. Were this a staple of any genre, it would be unbearable. But for Voices of the Void, it kinda works. It's almost more terrifying for your death to be portrayed this way, because it implies what happened to you is so incomprehensible. Neither you nor the game's code can understand what becomes of Dr. Kell in these moments. What was in the locker? No idea. Nothing tangibly. The locker just became scripted to boot me out of the game as an alternative for something the existence of which we can't comprehend, and that works because it leaves you wondering in a way actual jump scares don't. No questions get answered, they only get raised. Upon loading back in, the signal suddenly became something else, a shot of my signal station in real time showing myself moving around. Then it was over. Naturally, I kept scanning for signals and found a few more of note. A warning message from some unknown alien species telling me that curiosity kills. Then I found what appeared to be a red world with a haunting message that it is everywhere and everybody's dead, whatever it is. Some mysterious alien satellite. Finally, I found a big pyramid hurtling through space. I have my doubts that's naturally forming. After a while, we get to find out what the big pyramid was all about. As the bloody thing showed up with legs and started beaming up all the pesky wisps, rendering nighttime in the woods safe-ish again, I suppose. I mean, technically it's doing a good deed and protecting me from those wisps, but at the same time it's a giant pyramid walking around just outside my base. It's terrifying. Sure, it may have saved my life and made my life easier at least, but I'm now literally living in the fraction of a footprint of a cosmic giant. Yes, it saved us from meeting our end at the glowing invisible hands of a tiny wisp, but now we have to crack on feeling rather insignificant. That is kind of a staple of cosmic horror, so it's good, and it's amplified because of the natural lonely state of the game. There's no one else up here in these woods, just us, only us witnessing that. Not only do we have these cosmic entities that seem to keep cropping up, we also have no other mind to bounce off. There's no telling if what we're seeing is actually happening, or if Dr. Kell is just losing his mind and imagining things, which is just as believable. Look at the state of the man. Look at the sleep deprivation demon that spawns from his mind when he's tired, or the never-ending repertoire of fever dreams we can experience when we sleep. So there's no means to get confirmation that we aren't imagining the increasingly insane series of events as they unfold. It's valid to question the madness. Are we really seeing this, or are we just going insane? And that feeds into the idea of paranoia. At no point can we remove ourselves from one perception, and that gives the overall craziness more angles to attack us from. When we sleep, there's a chance we'll experience strange dreams, maybe even nightmares. If we don't sleep, this bellend shows up. We can tuck ourselves neatly away in our base with our army of minions as much as we want. The unnerving events can still get you. There are mannequins all over the shop that find their way to be right behind you, although they only really get freaky when you set them on fire. Other goings-on allow you to perceive them from the safety of your base, for instance the sky going a blood red. They even seep into your systems as you go about your routine. For instance, this CCTV camera cropped up briefly. I know I didn't place it in this lift, I'd never been there, I didn't even know where it was, so why has it gone active? Then there are the other happenings you seem to invite as you scan for signals. The physical events may escalate as the game progresses, but consistently Voices of the Void has a constance of mechanisms designed to burrow into your mind and unnerve you. As a result, despite the simple premise of a job simulator, the experience is never dull, and there's never a point where you feel like you've seen all the game has to offer. It's impossible to get bored when you can't predict with any degree of certainty what's going to happen next. We can't even nail down the logic the game is playing by, because we're experiencing both extremes of the two possibilities proposed by Arthur C. Clarke, that either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Our isolation is just as much a haze for horror to spring from as whatever else we might find while out in the woods, whatever signals we stumble across, whatever eerie discoveries we make even within our own base. For instance, with a hook you can become brave enough to explore the vents. In here we'll discover the base's previous occupant had used it as a hiding spot, where we can find a brief note documenting their own experiences, how the foreboding loneliness got to them, ending with the simple, harrowing line, "I do not feel safe here. I want to leave. The corpses in the meat room are slowly disappearing. I don't feel awfully safe here either. But to me, it's genuinely fascinating how this game can reliably deliver a sense of dread, imminent danger, despite encountering things that genuinely pose a threat to you being a reasonable rarity. They do happen, and you'd be lucky to not encounter at least a few of them. But for the most part, the game leaves you alone with your anticipation. It falls back on its atmosphere, and uses benign but all the same chilling events to shake you up, to cause stress, to really put you in the shoes of a lonely scientist at a remote research station miles from any other human life, juggling your duties as reality as you know it collapses around you. Oh my god.
Okay?
Oh my god. There's just a massive series of cubic... Oh dear. Right. I don't know about you, but that's my cue.
That's the cue to go home. Is it landing?
I'm not one for theories, but I don't think that was of earthly origin. I can't believe I'm going closer to it to find out what it is. Jesus Christ. Granted, as the story events ramp up in blatant absurdity, the idea of events happening overall does lose a bit of sting. Now that anticipation is for the most part in your rearview mirror, it's a lot easier to remain on balance when something unexpected happens. It even becomes amusing. You begin the game afraid of your own shadow. Now, here we are under a mothership, still afraid of our own shadow, but not necessarily afraid of the big floating cuboid. You see, the unknown can only rear its head so many times before it just becomes known. But fortunately, Voices of the Void has other strengths. Firstly, we have the fact that the story events aren't necessarily what's designed to frighten you. Maybe they do at first, but later into the game, they, if anything, become funny. We've had enough blatant extraterrestrial encounters at this point to no longer be fazed by the big giant cuboid floating through the air. The amusement factor amplified by the fact that's probably the least aerodynamic thing I've ever seen. But fortunately, Voices of the Void never puts all its eggs in one basket, and there are certain occurrences that can't be explained by aliens. Dr. Kell's mentally unwell dreams, the sleep deprivation demon that crops up if you're chronically negligent of your own well-being, the stalking signal entity that never shows up, even and probably especially if it kills you. That ominous red dying world, there's plenty that's still unexplained, much like Scooty's liking for mullets. And then there's the mystery of the previous occupant of the base, what compelled them to go and hide in the vents. And of course, who on earth put these mannequins here? And why do they move? If that isn't spicy enough, you can go summoning demonic entities with either your toilet, your microwave, or the emergency shower in your signal room. And if that's not enough, there are skeletal remains in the basement, and the meat cellar seems to gradually empty over the course of a playthrough, and somebody's scratched tally marks underneath your main desk. And I had a tame playthrough by comparison to my mate Ben, who seemed to have one cursed encounter after another, including a random door that appeared to be a portal to another dimension that just opened outside the base. This game's vibe stems from its implications in every direction. If you pay attention, everything is so detailed, and the events are so varied that you truly do not know what will happen next until it does. That, if anything, is a strong communication from the game that it's not complacent. If it's allowed me to get comfortable with the aliens because they never end up being particularly hostile, well, I should be very worried about what comes next, shouldn't I? One of Voices of the Void's greatest strengths is it's a cozy game. The routine feels kind of homely. And the bulk of encounters, though initially startling, aren't all that negative. For instance, this thing in my garage cleaning my quad bike. The game skews more positive from your expectation for the most part, but while comfort is part of what makes this game so valuable and enjoyable, it isn't a rule. We got a taste of that with the Wisps. And if we don't get a reputation up with the Arai rules, there's a chance they'll break into your base and beat the shit out of you. However, things that actively try to kill you upon contact are relatively minimal, except now we're at the business end of what's available in this pre-alpha version of this game. If anything, the sheer volume of neutral if not affable encounters with strange things emboldens you to go and explore, and see what's going on when you see suspicious lasers over the hill at the hole by the construction site near Transformer 3. Thinking it's highly unlikely I'll get shot at, imagine my surprise when I was in fact shot at. Jesus. I don't know why they want me dead if I get too close, but I discovered if I got within the fence surrounding the hole, they stopped caring. So I made my way back up, and thanks to the ATV's atrocious handling styled on the laser robot things, before parking up and dashing for the safety of the circle, where I was left alone, only to find this big robot thing seemingly throwing tins in the hole. Not sure why. It seems completely indifferent to our being present, so I thought, sod it, I'll help by throwing some stuff down there myself. Although I got a bit carried away and dropped a wheelie bin in the hole. In fairness though, at the bottom of a hole that goes to the centre of the earth is not the last place you'd expect to find a stolen Croydon wheelie bin, and then I perhaps bit off more than I could chew with an explosive barrel. I can't believe there are cosmic horrors out here, and still the biggest threat to my own well-being is myself. It's a strangely apt commentary when juggling with the fear of the unknown. After all, the game is trying to highlight that we are our own worst enemy, and though it's got an unnerving atmosphere and the game thrives on that, the bulk of it comes from the player's own paranoia. Sure, there are genuine scares that crop up occasionally, and those scares are frightening, but they're moderated sparingly. Most events pass without incident, some even pass before we even recognise what they are. We're alone with our thoughts, not knowing what to expect next, putting us in a less than rational headspace that never benefits us, and the game's great at predicting our confidence. Because if we build any up, it knows exactly how to bring it crashing back down to the ground. And that allows things that can actually hurt you to be quite a rarity, as the game understands that your guard is naturally up and only waits for it to be dropped, before shaking things up in a way that you can't predict without some forewarning. The f*** is that?
I don't know what that is. I don't remember this.
The horny MILFs are getting angry.
Alert from it. Alert. The horny MILFs are in the area.
Interestingly, as the game progresses, sometimes it becomes a game of less is more. A UFO dropping body parts right outside my window is just free food, but being unexplainably accosted by a Toyota Corolla is infinitely more perplexing. You see, it's interesting that somebody drops a corpse on us to threaten us. The implications are very direct. It's either that or they assume we're cannibals. Correctly. But a Toyota Corolla hurling at us with the handbrake off in the wild leads to a series of questions that can only have elaborate answers. Who's responsible for this car showing up in the woods? Why a car? What did they hope to achieve by hurling it at me? I highly doubt the jalopy migrated on its own, as it's not mating season among Toyota Corollas, because that is in March. It's such an elaborate and inefficient way to try and kill me. Is it a gift? Because I can't exactly use it. As far as encounters go, this is beyond unbelievably abstract. That amplifies the unnerving atmosphere by combining it with total bewilderment. The dismembered corpse is a clear communication that whomever dropped it does not come in peace. By comparison, nothing is certain in a random encounter with a shitbox. That's pretty much enshrined in the highway code. The only intended result from this encounter that would make sense is total confusion. This game has a track record of events attaching to a series and escalating. Where do you even go with this?
Oh,
that's a car. So maybe the Toyota was a warning of an impending alien invasion. I never thought an ultra-reliable family saloon would be the harbinger of the end times. You know what, sod it, you see this cigarette that's been in Dr. Kell's mouth the entire playthrough? Now's as good a time as any to smoke it. So, Voices of the Void is a fantastic game if your idea of fun is hiding under a desk surrounded by mountains of rubbish smoking tobacco. But jokes aside, I'm in awe at how this pre-alpha game goes above and beyond in generating an atmosphere tailored to make the player paranoid. It forces you to question things. It makes you confront the fear of the unknown on both fronts. The idea of being alone in the universe, being alone as an individual, and of course, the alternative that you aren't alone in the universe. You aren't even alone in these woods, and your neighbours are very unsettling. They're puzzling to understand, and it's ultimately up to you whether or not you let your fear dictate your actions going forwards. And something else interestingly happens over the course of this surprisingly long game. You get used to it, you accept the escalation, and the insanity of the escalation fades from being what defines the game. Alternatively, it's the random events. Even the randomness of the events in general is the extensive series of discoveries you make, all the questions that go unanswered because they're unanswerable. It's a game that finds new and inventive ways to keep you creeped out, and the best part is it's incomplete. There's more to come. In fact, this video may end up being outdated in a few months' time. But the point is, the version that's available to play right now is only a taste of the creativity that's very clearly gone into this. And for me, that's ultimately what made it worthwhile to play. I suppose even blokes with mullets have good ideas every so often, so I'll leave a link in the description where you can download it for yourself if you haven't played it before. While I'm under no illusions that this game isn't quite popular as is, I didn't know about it until a mate of mine told me about it, and there's gotta be more like that, so if this is the kind of game that's your cup of tea, I can't recommend it enough. But with that, I end today's video here. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.